questions. Uh, so the plan for this evening is that I'll give you a very brief introduction of the people on the dais, and then I will request Mr. Suresh Jhunjhunwala, who's the promoter and chairman of the company, to say a few words about his journey in JG Chemicals. And after that, we'll have a short presentation, which can be followed up by question and answers. Just to introduce the company and the people on the dais, we have Suresh Jhunjhunwala ji right in the center. He's the main promoter. He established JG Chemicals almost 3 decades, 4 decades back. To his right is Mr. Anirudh Jhunjhunwala, who's the managing director. And to his left is Mr. Anuj Jhunjhunwala, who is the CFO and director. And I also have my book BRLM colleagues on the dais, Mr. Yatin Shah and Mr. Anupam Paliwal from Centrum and MK. Uh, just to set the pace and the tempo for the meeting, we are excited to bring this IPO to the market early next week. What is really exciting about the company is that it is the largest zinc oxide producer in India and controls almost 30% of the market share in its area of activity, which is zinc oxide out of the French process. Um, they manufacture close to 80 grades of zinc oxide, and they are suppliers to most of the leading tire companies in India as well as globally. Zinc oxide finds its use majorly in the tire industry, and the usage is expanding into other industries, which Anuj will cover in a bit more detail in his presentation. Um, I think the company has had a tremendous amount of growth over the past few years, and now is embarking on an expansion plan. And we'll brief you guys a little more details about that. And I would now request Suresh ji to say a few words, and then he can pass on the floor to Anirudh and Anuj. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here and hear us out. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinitji. At the outset, I would like to thank all of you, ladies and gentlemen, members of the financial markets, the broker fraternity, and esteemed analysts to have found time to be with us this afternoon for the roadshow of JG Chemicals. I'm Suresh Jhunjhunwala, as Vinitji introduced, chairman of JG Chemicals. I come from a business family which has been in industry for almost 100 years, and but mainly known for glassware manufacturing. In the last 50 years, I've handled various verticals, but today we are talking about JG Chemicals, with which was handed over to me in the year 1990, when the production capacity was 500 tons per annum. Today, by the grace of God and by the hard work of our team, we have a capacity of 50,000 tons, 60,000 tons, 60,000 tons per annum. And that's over the that has been possible because of the uncompromising stance we took on quality, customer satisfaction, and commitment value. So, and these are the two pillars which have helped us to grow and making JG into the number one player in country at the moment. And God willing, no sooner we have a much better, we have much, though we are not number one or number three, even among number three in the world scene, but I think we should be in a sizable number in the near future. With this is a little bit about us. I think the details are, you would like to hear details which Anirudh and Anush can share more with you on the product, on the applications, and on other things. I would like to say only one thing. very broadly. See, we are in the business of manufacturing zinc oxide, which are the consuming industries. Today, everyone is talking about the world mobility. We are mobility sectors are customers, tires. There's people, everybody wants longer life for their assets. Now, steel structures require zinc-rich coating. Zinc-rich means coating. They are our customers. Everyone wants to have a better nutrition, better sense of well-being. Now, in nutrition products also zinc oxide is required. Even for the soil enrichment, now it's coming. The, there is a very much the awareness is there that our soils should be more productive, and there also zinc has its applications. So this product is has a unique opportunity to serve so many industries which will meet the aspirations of the people of India, which is a growing economy. I think I just talked off my subject to throw some light on the product and its uses. Now, request Anirudh to open the subject.
Thank,
CMD, please.
thank you, Chairman Sir. It's indeed a pleasure for me this afternoon to be amongst all of you and to showcase our company, JG Chemicals Limited, which has been built over several decades on the foundation of quality, trust, and adhering to commitments. I've been associated with the company since the year 2000. And today, as I sit amongst all of you, I am very proud to mention to you that today in zinc oxide business, JG Chemical is a leader in India. It's the number one producer in the country. And we also happen to rank amongst the top 10 producers globally. The aim, the objective of all of us who are part of the JG team is to make sure that we go into the top five internationally as a zinc oxide producer. One exercise that we do annually, and we take a lot of pride in that, is to measure how satisfied our customers are. And at the end of the year, every year, when I review those results, it gives me immense pleasure to see that almost 90% of our customers rate us as a preferred supplier and give us a high customer satisfaction index. This is an asset which we believe is not valued and factored in our balance sheet. But this is what at JG Chemical, everybody who's a part of the team works for, that is to satisfy and delight a customer. Our customers include the top nine tire companies out of the global top 10. This is a big feather in the cap of the company. And I think very few people in the current scenario are being able to replicate that. Apart from the tire, we have leaders in various other fields as our customers, like pharmaceuticals, cosmetic, oral care, and many more segments. Today, our company JG is well known also in the international markets, being amongst the top 10 producers. We have a very good global footprint where we also sell our zinc oxide and we also source our raw material, which is supposed to be zinc dross. Our CFO Anuj will take us through even more details about it. While doing all of this over the last few decades, what we have ensured and what we strive is to make sure that we are able to deliver good value to all our stakeholders. And it has been a pleasure for us that over the last few years, our critical parameters like your ROC, ROEs have all been north of 20%. In order to dwell much deeper into the business case scenario and what JG Chemicals is all about and how the business operates, I will request our CFO, Anuj Jhunjhunwala, to kindly make a presentation and take us through that. At the end of the presentation, we would be most happy to take all the questions that you may have. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for the introduction. So friends, I would like to run you through the presentation right now on JG Chemicals. So I think some of the numbers here have been touched upon by Mr. Anirudh Jhunjhunwala. We are today, as you know, the largest producer in the country. for zinc oxide. We have over 250 customers. And the most important part here is that there's a 90% repeat order rate. And most of our large customers, the tire sector, the cosmetic sector, the pharmaceutical sector, and some of the other major sectors which we have, they've been a customer for long. Some of the tire relationships last maybe 20, 25 years as well. Uh, One of the unique things about zinc oxide as a chemical vis-a-vis, any other specialty or semi-specialty chemical is that there's no one size which fits all. Many chemicals are there where universally 8 or 9 grades are made and this is sold across the world. Zinc oxide is unique in itself that today each customer within a single application segment, whether it's tires, would have a different specification. So if you see 10 tire companies, each of them would have a different specification. If you see paint companies, they would have all of them would have a different one. The agriculture guys would have different, the pharma guys would have different, the electronics guys would have different. So the ability to make 80 plus grades in a plant regularly, continuously, and without failing on any quality parameters is one of the biggest assets that we as a company have been able to achieve in the last so many years. Another important thing to highlight here is, as you know, about over 75% of our revenues is from the tire sector. And I'm happy to state that we're the only zinc oxide company globally to have the IATF certification. IATF is a certification related to the automobile industry, and this is a very, very prestigious certification. Another feather in our cap is the fact that we recently got our GMP approval for making pharmaceutical grade zinc oxide. I can safely say there are very, very few companies globally to have this, and this is a very, very niche market. A part of it is also import substitution, and this is a segment which we expect to grow. And obviously, the margins, etc., are also better in this segment. Now, zinc oxide, if you, as a product characteristic, it's white powder. It looks like talcum powder. Um, there are three different technologies present globally. The indirect or the French process, as they call it, is the dominant technology globally. About 90% of the production globally is through this route. The direct and wet chemical process is also followed by very few manufacturers, but the feedstock for that process is different, and also the quality of the end product is also different, and hence it has limited application in terms of customers. So I'm told that the direct and the wet chemical process zinc oxide cannot perhaps be used in radial tires as well. So that takes away a very large segment of the market. Now, our main raw materials are zinc metal, the virgin zinc, which companies like the Hindustan Zinc and the Korea Zincs of the world produce, and zinc dross, which is a bulk, which is which is what we buy from galvanizers. Basically, the large steel mills who coat their steel with zinc and then sell it. Every business has certain competitive strengths, and I would like to highlight what are our main strengths. One of the biggest strengths that we have is customer approvals, a very deep-rooted relationship with our customers because these approvals take a long time. A very deep-rooted and diverse supplier base. This gives us the flexibility of a wide variety of raw materials, a very strong and dedicated team which understands the zinc oxide chemistry. It's been perfected over the last 30, 40 years. The ability to recycle various forms and grades of zinc scrap to make the best quality of zinc oxide without compromising on the yields. This is what is the catalyst for our return ratios and our profitability. This is something which has been learned, and it's not that we learned on day one, we failed, but we kept trying, and we've come to a point where we would say that we've reached a reasonable size on that. This another aspect is the sustainability. On the greens, on the green economy side, we are using almost 95% recycled material. So that scores very well on our ESG front as well. Now, I think our chairman and our managing director touched upon certain application areas. Now, the important thing to note here is that if you compare the use of zinc oxide globally versus India, there's a very big difference. Globally, only about 50% or thereabouts is used in the rubber sector. The balance 50% is used across ceramics, which is probably about 20-25%, and the rest across all the other applications. India obviously is more focused towards the rubber industry, probably about 75%. Then ceramics is a large segment of the market where we as a producer are very, very minimalistically present, less than 1% share. And then there are a whole host of other applications. Now, we as a company believe that obviously tire has been our bread and butter, and we would continue to grow there and fuel our growth over there. However, with physical presence with a manufacturing base in Gujarat, in the very near future. We'll be able to access the Gujarat ceramics market because Gujarat is the hub of all frit manufacturing, plus the non-rubber and non-ceramic market, which comprises of pharma, chemicals, agriculture, batteries, paints, animal feed, oil and gas, lubricants, human nutrition products. This is a very interesting segment because A, competition is limited in some of these areas because of want of certifications, which we have and many others don't have. And plus, some of these customers in these segments are extremely large companies where the volume of zinc oxide required may not be in thousands of tons, but they're very, very picky and choosy in terms of the quality specifications and infrastructure. So the competition in these segments is also lesser vis-a-vis a conventional, a Hawaii chappal manufacturer, a conveyor belt manufacturer, but the margins are better as well in these. Now, coming on the customer approval, tire industry is a very, very difficult industry to break into. Normal, customer approval in a large tire account takes about 5, 7 years. And unless you are a reasonably sized plant of 12 or maybe 15, 17,000, a tire company doesn't want to, spend time in approving you. And if you set up a large plant of that size and you're not prove with the tire company, who do you sell to? So it's a chicken and egg situation. This is perhaps one of the main reasons why I've been in the industry for the last 13 years. I've not seen any new entrants from outside the industry who've come and put up a zinc oxide factory. Now you have to understand that zinc oxide in the overall cost of a tire is less than 1%. So the tire companies are very picky on who they buy from. They, in the last, 10, 12 years, you've seen foreign automobile companies put up factories in India. Now they are buying their tires from Indian manufacturers. So the quality standards, the systems, the assurance programs, etc., which they want the tire companies to have them. And how will a tire company have it? It's only if their vendors have it, which is people like us. So there's a lot of focus on consistency in the raw material. The Six Sigma, the defects per million. All these factors are now playing a very, very important role when tire companies are approving new vendors. And to approve a new vendor for a tire company is a very costly process. They have to go through a wide range of things like, a small sample, a bulk sample, a compound testing, test tires testing, and market testing. So there's a lot of liability on the tire manufacturers as well if the product fails. So they want suppliers who are top notch in terms of quality and consistency. Plus, they have the capability to upgrade. And in our journey with the tire companies over the last 2, 3 decades, they've been a great pillar of support for us. We are what we are because of them. And today, I'm happy to state that out of the top 10 tire companies globally, we are approved with 9 of them. Now, on the other side of the business, the pharma, etc. So we have the Indian pharma, the British pharma, the US pharma, and the European pharmacopoeia approvals, as well as the GMP. So these are things which obviously drive sales in other sectors, which are also more margin accretive. Now, coming to sourcing, you see, there are two raw materials, as I mentioned. One is virgin, one is scrap. Virgin zinc is fairly easy to procure from the likes of Hindustan Zinc, Korea Zinc, etc. On the scrap, India is actually a net importer of zinc scrap today. About 35% of our raw material that we buy is in-house from India, from the large steel mills. About 65% is imports. Now, when I talk about imports, they range from, over 100 suppliers from all over the world, right? From South America, North America, Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, Australia, Middle East, everywhere. Now, these guys who are selling the zinc dross to us from these countries are not galvanizers directly. They are traders or aggregators in those regions. They are picking up the material from the galvanizers, aggregating it, and selling it to people like us. Now, you guys are from the financial community, all know various hiccups and the shocks the world economy has gone through in the last 15 years, whether it was the financial crisis, the European crisis, the COVID crisis. What happens in these times of crisis is there's a major movement in commodity prices. Prices go down. As a company, we believe in ethical standards of our business. Throughout our journey, we've ensured no matter where the markets have gone, we've honored each and every commitment with our suppliers. This is the goodwill that we built up. And today I'm happy to state that if there's any large parcel of zinc dross being sold anywhere in the world, we would be offered that for sure. Now, these guys want predictability in terms of people like us who will buy the material as well as payment. These are two things which we can assure them. Now, what this has given us access to is a wide bouquet of raw materials. So, if we talk about galvanizing, the standards of galvanizing, the composition of the galvanizing bath with whatever metals are put in it is different across different geographies. So, when you're buying from Europe, the grades of zinc dross could be slightly different from what a Middle Eastern guy would give us or a Southeast Asian guy would give us. We have a wide range of, you know, inventory to choose from, and this has come because of size. Because of our size today, with our capacities, with our volumes, we have always a reasonably large amount of inventory that we can play with. This gives us the benefit to blend various forms and qualities of zinc dross, use the chemistry required to produce the best grades. In some cases, we've observed that our competitors are also using a blend of virgin zinc and zinc dross to make certain customer application grades. Whereas because of the wide gamut of drosses that we have, we are able to use make most of them using 100% scrap. And this is something which comes with size. And this is not something, if you're a 2,000 ton producer per annum, you'll have only that much inventory, a few hundred tons. But if you're a guy with 60,000 tons capacity, the quantum that you will play with will always be more. One of the key facets of our growth has been the ability to keep on expanding capacity at regular intervals. If you see the last 4 5 year track record, you will see that almost every couple of years, our gross block has gone up. Now, very recently, we expanded our capacity last year, and which takes us to about 60,000 tons of zinc oxide capacity and about 10,000 tons of zinc sulfate capacity and 7,000 tons of zinc ingot capacity. Zinc ingots we are currently not manufacturing. Um, as a company, so 60,000 out of zinc oxide, the achievable capacity is about 85% given the various grades and all the fungibility that is required to meet the customer demands. And of which about 12, 13,000 just got commissioned last fiscal. So we are very happy operating at, the 60s, 65% utilization rate, and then we keep adding capacity. Short introduction on our board members. Apart from the three of us who are present here, we have Mr. Ashok Bandari. He's a veteran. Uh, he was the ex-CFO of Sri Cements. I'm sure many of you would know him. Mr. Nag, he's the next very senior member of the CARE rating agency team, and Ms. Savita Agarwal. Now, the world is talking about ESG and green chemicals and all of that. In the tire companies are talking about sustainable tires. So today, if you just Google and write sustainable tires, you'll see almost all global tire companies have come up with targets that by 2035 or 2030 or 2040, we'll make sustainable tires. Now, what is sustainable tires? A sustainable tire is nothing but a tire which is made from raw materials, which have been made from recycled material. Fortunately for us, we are already making a zinc oxide from recycled recycled zinc rather. So we score very well on that. Because there are case studies and there are a lot of talks within the tire industry that products which are not being made from recycled material could see a reduction in usage or dosage going forward unless they're able to, rejig their production and use recycled material. So our relationships with the tire sector dives deep, and we are also exploring other products where there's a lot of opportunity where because of this recycled content increase. Now, what's the growth plan that we have? We are embarking on a multi-pronged approach to grow our company. We're a young company, and we believe there's a lot of opportunity in India and regions around India to grow. So, what are we doing? Number one, we're putting up a unit in Gujarat. Gujarat for three reasons. One, it's close to the ceramic market where we have negligible presence. So we are starting off at a very low base, and we have 30% market share in India. I'm not saying I'm going to get a 30% market share in the ceramics market on day one, but I will leave you to guess. I mean, when the largest producer in the country is going into a market, we definitely believe we'll be successful there. Secondly, a lot of our tire customers also have plants in Gujarat, and a lot of new tire capacity is being put up in Gujarat. We'll cater to them as well because we're already supplying to them in South India. Thirdly, a lot of specialty chemical companies are also there in Gujarat and the entire belt in and around Gujarat. So those are also our customers. But we don't want to limit our growth in the tire sector or just to India. As a company, we believe that there is a lot of consolidation which will happen in the zinc oxide industry, which will help us grow in India. But if I want to, go out a 5 year, 7 year roadmap, we need to sow the seeds today. So when we look at the map of Asia and we see which are the top, tire producing regions, there's China, there's India, and there's Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia is a market where we've catered to the largest tire companies in that region for the last 10 odd years or maybe longer. So we are putting up a plant in Southeast Asia. It could be an acquisition or it could be a greenfield. Work is underway on both those avenues. I cannot share more details on this at this point. But we're very confident that the Southeast Asian market will be a very attractive market because we already have relationships and customer approvals in most of them there. In addition to all of this, as I told you, we started a product called zinc sulfate. Zinc sulfate is basically a micronutrient which goes into agriculture. The reason we started this product is threefold. One, the key raw material to produce this product is called zinc ash. Zinc ash is a byproduct of the zinc oxide business. So we have our own feedstock of raw material, which is a big, advantage in terms of cost. Secondly, South India has the highest efficiency of zinc in the soil today. And we believe South India's competitive landscape for zinc sulfate was fairly attractive for us because we see that a lot of sulfate is actually coming from North India and West India into South India. And it's not a very expensive product. It's a 60, 70 buck product. So there's scope for, local production. Thirdly, many of our zinc oxide customers are also buyers of zinc sulfate. So we are just able to increase the product offering to them. So apart from that, the zinc sulfate business gives us, access into a B2C segment as well by building our own brand. I'm not saying that's a very large percentage of our business. It's an insignificant percentage of our business today. But we believe this will gradually get scaled up and will give us, a headway when we get into products like EDTA or 39.5% solution. A lot of the infrastructure required to make these products lie in-house with us, and we believe we can, grow those businesses as well. The other product that we're going to make soon is called active zinc oxide. This is a lot of use in electronics, and with the focus from the government of India on these, industry segments, we believe this would grow. And obviously, as I mentioned, the pharmaceutical business and the cosmetics business, we're looking to grow aggressively as well. Now, if I talk about the industry, globally, the zinc oxide industry would be about 1.5, 1.6 million tons or so, and the Indian industry would be about 1.31 lakh tons or so. But if you see the global landscape, it's a very very consolidated industry. Whether it's Europe, North America, they have very very few players. Now, when you look at India, it's a very fragmented market. We are the largest guy in India with a 30% market share. Then there are a couple of companies who are less than half our size, and then a few companies which are even lower, and then a whole host of companies which are really small. Now, what's happening in our industry is consolidation can happen by two ways. One is by M&A, but these usually happen in very large industries, or by the smaller guys gradually, not being able to meet customer requirements, and the customers coming to people like us. This has happened in the last 4 5 years, and I think for the next 7 to 10 years, I think this theme would have continue. The shift from unorganized to organized doesn't happen overnight in a country like India. It's a phase. Takes 10, 15 years for it to happen. And we believe we are major gainers from the consolidation, and we will continue to gain from there. Now, these are the top 10 tire companies in the world. On the left side, we are approved with 9 of them. And on the right side, the top 11 tire companies in India, we are approved with all of them. Now, what you see on the screen is just 10 names, but this is probably 20 years of work. So today, if you need the money and the bandwidth to put up the oxide plant, but it will take you the same amount of time to get these approvals, and no one wants to wait. So that's why it's a slightly closed loop industry. And one more point you need to understand here is that when you look at other inputs to the tire industry, I'm not going to name the products. You guys all know what are the products used by the tire industry. You'll see in most cases the industries are fairly consolidated. 3, 4, 5 players, some amount of imports. In oxide, we're talking about 40 odd producers. Many of them are really, really small. So gradually the shift is happening from those smaller guys to people like us, whether it's whether it's someone who's making tires for the best, car manufacturer, or someone who's making tires for a cycle manufacturer as well. Because you have to understand that global, bicycle manufacturers are also now present in India. So even people who are making bicycle tires are now getting quality conscious. They're no more selling to just an Indian one in North India. Now, obviously, when you talk about tires, everyone talks about cyclicality. Now, these are numbers. I'll give you 10 seconds to digest these numbers. There was a growth CAGR of 2.16% in this period of 5 years, and we've had a CAGR of 13.2% in this period. There's a difference of 10%, over 10% CAGR over a 5 year period. Now, how has this happened? Number one, as I mentioned, the tire companies are now focusing on reducing the number of vendors, but increasing the wallet share to ensure consistency. This is one. Secondly, we've added many new customers across many new application areas. And it's not that it's just us who should be given the credit. It's because the country has evolved. There are many new application areas which have come up. So when you talk about agriculture, Europe, US use a lot of zinc oxide in agriculture. Today, the use of zinc oxide in agriculture is minuscule. Sunscreens, there were barely any manufacturers in India 10 years ago. But you see today, even a tier 3 city will have sunscreens being used in large quantities. Paints. People want rich paints because they don't want to keep coating the house every year. So this has helped us. In the battery segment, there are certain growths that we'll be able to develop. The import substitution has happened because of people like us and the plants that we've set up. Not to mention here the capacity expansion on a regular basis. You have to understand that tire industry is a very sticky industry. People may call it cyclical, but we think it's one of the most sticky industries in the world today. Because once a tire customer starts buying from you, he usually doesn't flip. Zinc oxide is an essential product. It's less than 1% of the cost of a tire. So there's no major price advantage also which can move the needle for a tire company. So they want to be very, very sure who they're buying from. Zinc sulfate, I mean, it's about a 2 lakh ton market in India today. We put up a plant for 10,000 tons approximately in South India. It's a good business. Obviously, this business is partly dependent on the monsoons, but I think this is a good business to be in. The ROEs and the ROCs are fairly attractive in line with the numbers that we've had. And the overall margin profile is also better than the zinc oxide business. And this gives us a new vertical with not very large capex. If you see our gross block, I mean, the capex was not more than 15 crores over it was less than 15 crores, in fact, to set up this plant. And it'll be a good business going ahead for us. On the numbers, the company has been fairly robust in terms of growth, and this growth has been achieved with adequate capital allocation and low debt. On the debt level today, our parent company is a debt-free company. The subsidiary has about 35 crores of debt, of which majority is working capital and about 6-7 crores is term loan. On the issue, the total issue size is about 165 crores and an offer for sale for about 3.9 million shares. So the total issue size would be about 251 odd crores, of which the primary issue, about 25 crores, will be used to repay the debt which the subsidiary has, fund about 6 crores of capex for the R&D center in the subsidiary, funding certain long-term working capital, requirements of the subsidiary, and funding the long-term working capital requirements of the parent company as well. And the balance would be for general corporate purpose. As I've outlined earlier, there's a lot of capex which has been also outlined, and we believe our internal accruals would be sufficient to fund those capexes as well. Now I leave the floor open to your questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have two questions. First is how much time it takes for the approval from these tire companies? It's a deterrent, basically a business mode for a company. So how much time, sir, it takes for the approval from these tire companies? And second is what are the total number of approvals? Like the number of approvals, if you can put a number on them.
Okay. So as far as your first question is concerned, how much time it takes for an average tire approval, our experience has been that for every approval, it's a minimum 5-year period. It's also extended for, in our case, for certain approvals to go as high as 8 to 9 years, but on average 5 to 6 years for reasons which have been explained. But if you want, I can enumerate it again, but you're fine with it. So about 5 to 6 years is the bare minimum. A number of approvals, it was put up on the slide. As far as global tire companies are concerned, we have approvals with 9 out of 10 of them. And as far as Indian 11 tire companies are concerned, we have approvals with all of them.
Question is how many
A quantity of approval.
from each company?
So it is a site-specific approval. So if JG Chemicals is approved with, say, an X customer for X plant, it is approved through all his plants. So you don't need to take a customer plant-specific approval, but the approval for yourself is a plant-specific approval.
Secondly, there is a good demand for green tires globally also in the coming in India. So where do we see our company gearing up?
So as far as green tires are concerned, what is a green tire? Green tire is basically the recycled content of the tire has to be minimum X% for the tire to be a green tire. Now there are various components which go into a tire. One of them being zinc oxide. So as far as we are concerned, bulk of our supplies to the tire industries, in fact, almost all of it is by recycled zinc, use of recycled zinc. So as far as we're concerned, it's already a green product because we're using recycled zinc. Very high in the resource efficiency, use of recycled material, etc. So if a customer, if a tire company were to ask us that what is your recyclable content in the product today, we can safely say that for some of them it's 100% today. So as far as that is concerned, it's a good contributor to the green tire. Now, obviously, the tire industry will never be able to replace everything, but the focus will be as much as they can replace carcinogenic products with greener products. So we're very good on that, that at least our product is itself a green product. So there is no threat of as such a replacement or substitution or layering of consumption of a particular product to reach their own standards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Rohan Advan. Sir, you had very consistent margins between FY21 to 23, but in the 9 months of FY24, our margins have dropped. So if you could talk about what your margins were before FY21 and what is the normalized margin that you expect in your business?
I will let Anuj handle this question this year.
So if you see margins in the FY21 to FY23 period, EBITDA margins have ranged between 10.5 or to 11% odd. Yes, the margins in the 9-month period has been a little low. So before I get into the margin segment, I want to explain to you the business model because the most important thing is to understand that. So you see a raw material that we buy is zinc dross. That's the price of zinc dross is determined based on the price of zinc on the LME, London Metal Exchange. Usually, the price of zinc dross is a percentage of the LME prices. So, what happened during H1 of this fiscal was there was a major crash in the commodity prices. So, usually, our pricing model is such that we buy a zinc dross basis the LME in a particular month and we sell a zinc oxide basis the LME the next month. So as such, I'm buying in a month and selling the next month. I'm buying the next month and selling the month after. So the pricing is auto-adjusted and there's no risk in terms of passing on a price hike or going back to the customer for all of that. That's automatically done. Now, obviously, you see, we are running a business and scrap is not something which is available the day I want it. So today, if I want to buy 1,000 tons of scrap, I won't get it. So as a prudent manufacturer, we always keep sufficient inventory, and our strength to keep this inventory, to finance this inventory is one of the reasons why we've been able to be successful. So zinc oxide as a business may not require too much capex to put up a new plant, but to fund the working capital require a lot of money. So in order to keep these customers in place, we have to have a certain amount of inventory. So that's a fixed inventory in the business. That was there 2 years ago. That's there today, and that will be there 3 years later as well. So if there's a very major and sharp movement in commodity prices downward, that will affect the inventory for that. So it takes a few months to get the inventory valuation normalized. So that's what happened in H1. The other thing which happened in H1 was that when there's a sudden and very quick fall in the commodity prices, the scrap prices do not always move in the exact way it should move. There's a slight anomaly. So there was a slight anomaly during H1 for towards the later part of H1. And as a prudent manufacturer, we can't expect the customer to revise, give us the benefit for that anomaly in this one. We have to wait for a month or 2 months, and then we go back to the customer, and the customer passes on that, whatever adjustment is needed to take care of the anomaly. So that got taken off, and Q3 you would see the commodity prices have been fairly stable, and the anomalies were there. The requisite price adjustments were given by the customers, and so the Q3 margins were back in line with what they were. Now, going forward, we do expect that there will be increase in our overall margins for multiple reasons. A, because of increased share of the pharma chemicals and niche segments where the EBITDA margins are etc. are significantly higher than what we've enjoyed. On the zinc sulfate business also, the EBITDA margins are higher. And overall, with operating leverage, You have to understand that our business does not require, we don't have 5,000 customers. So if I go to a Western region, it's not that I need to hire 300 people to sell the product. So there will be a lot of, distribution of SG&A expenses across a wider base. So that will help us. And obviously, we have to understand that the relationship with these customers are very strong. And once we become more important for them in multiple geographies, obviously our bargaining power would be more.
Got it. And sir, lastly, do we face any competition from imports and especially from the Chinese players?
One thing very good about our business is there is no real China angle about it. So most of the chemicals that you would see, a lot of their business economics dynamics depend on China. If China starts dumping that material, businesses suffer. If China doesn't dump, businesses prosper. As far as zinc oxide is concerned, there is hardly very little imports which come into the country, and that too mostly it is not from China. These imports of very small quantities are mainly related to very specialized grades like for the electronics, etc. Now, until some time back, India did not have a plant which was capable enough to satisfy that requirement. Only last year, we set up in our Naidupeta facility in Andhra, we set up a dedicated plant to manufacture this grade material. And I'm happy to state that within a short span of time, that plant has got all the necessary approvals, whether it is GMP, pharma approvals, etc. Today, we have been able to import substitute with some of our customers. The journey has just begun, and I'm sure in the years to come, we will be able to do that. But anyways, that is a very, very insignificant portion of the total market size of zinc oxide.
Thank you.
Please.
Yeah. Thanks for the IPO, and we have been looking forward to this chemical industry turnaround, no? And it is the first to come. It shows some good confidence. A couple of specific questions, although I missed a few slides. Now we are in a good spot as far as opportunities for international business is concerned in this Amrit Kaal. If you can share the total export opportunities in our product line and what is our current exports, which country, which products, and opportunities where we should concentrate on, and which products, which countries, continents, and uh, pie. If you do a pie chart, domestic exports, if you can elaborate on that,
Sure.
it would enlighten us much
So
more.
currently, as we stand today, we have roughly between 10 and 15% of exports, and the balance is domestic. Now, these exports are mainly centered towards Southeast Asia, a market which we have been seeding for the last few years. Anuj also mentioned in his slide, perhaps maybe you missed those slides,
Yeah.
that we are planning a foray into Southeast Asia. The reason being, these customers, we have very good relationship with them. Some of them also have manufacturing facilities in India and in Southeast Asia. In some of them in India, our market share could be I has at 75, 80%. But when I come to Southeast Asia to service that customer, my wallet share would be maybe 5% or 7%. Now, why is that? Is the same customer, is the same manufacturer. Unfortunately, whether we like it or not, and more so we've seen post-COVID, the world is getting more localized. We've seen a lot of freight disruption, a lot of ship movement disruptions, etc. So people are preferring vendors who are at close proximity and who can service requirements at short notice. In India, we can do that very well. We have plants in Eastern India, we have plants in Southern India, so our reach is fairly quick and smooth. Whereas when it comes to Southeast Asia, the regular business deterrents come in place. So that's the reason why we are moving to Southeast Asia, because in effect, we would not be exporting material from India, but we will plan to have a setup there and cater to the needs. So in effect, the Indian company would be selling zinc oxide to those customers, but not primarily from India. That is one part of the thing.
So it's one product,
Sure.
zinc oxide.
Zinc oxide. We're talking about zinc oxide. Now, also recently we had we could break through in Europe also. Some of our customers who have manufacturing facilities in India also set up facilities in Europe. So recently we've been able to break through that. So our product has started moving to those facilities in Europe. We expect now, as our size has increased, if you talk of Europe, there are two or three players.
or 5 players at max. If you talk of North America, there are 3 players. The size is huge. The tire companies there are used to buying with those size of producers. Today, 5 years back, our capacity was very small. We've recently, in the last 5 years, we've scaled our capacity tremendously. Now that world, that tire company world, which is prevalent in Europe and North America, is started to look at us as a creditable producer, as a producer with size, capacity, scope, processes. So we feel this is an important segment where we want to concentrate. Again, I want to just stress that we already have those relationships in India. We just need to explore them outside. And the mindset there is in a different way because those are in consolidated markets. So that is another area which poses a lot of a tremendous scope for us to grow in the future.
And so it is Southeast Asia and Europe.
Europe, primarily, this is what
Right.
we're looking at.
And you said 15%.
Currently, we are between 10 to 15%.
And how would it increase?
I mean, if you were to take our presence in Southeast Asia included in this, then we can share with you, I mean, what we expect volumes to be going forward. But currently, if you are talking about only exporting from our Indian facilities, I mean, we don't see a remarkable change in that because, the Indian market is very strong and we would like to concentrate on that. But yes, we'll continue to grow. But I cannot, for obviously confidentiality reasons, I cannot.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And import export, what is the current position? We are surplus or we are net?
We are a net importer because we import 65% of our raw material from abroad.
Okay.
So we are a net importer.
That will continue?
That will continue because as we I mean, the Indian market is also growing. The availabilities of scrap in India is also growing. Gradually, we expect this to come down, but we don't see a complete import substitution. And there are reasons for having this in place also because it's a scrap. We must understand it is not a product which is being manufactured. So there is a limitation on the generation of every plant and every country. So if the steel sector in India is not doing very well, then obviously galvanizing will also not do very well. And in effect, the scrap generated out of the galvanizing would also come down. We as a manufacturer, one of the things which Anuj highlighted is we are making a lot of grades out of zinc scrap, which I mean, in all fairness, some of our competitors are actually blending virgin metal to make those grades. Now, what gives us this flexibility is because we process of all nature in our plant. We are sourcing from as far as North America to as close as Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and even Australia. So this,
China?
sorry,
China?
no, China does not export zinc dross.
Okay.
So we are importing from all these countries. So this gives us various flavors of zinc dross of different composition, chemistry, etc., which helps us in ultimately making a product at a low cost from scrap rather than trying to blend virgin zinc. So as a strategy also, even if the entire scrap is available in India, we will not go after that. We would still continue to import scrap.
Lastly, the most important one, but it will demystify a lot of clarity required. China plus one. Now it is India plus one, with Amrit Kal. So what is the thing? Are we going to benefit or we can get impacted with government supporting China, slow down? There's a lot of opaque things.
So
And
that-
chemical industries are there's a close connect with China.
Absolutely.
Dumping, etc. So if you can clarify the perspective.
Sure.
So where do we stand? What are our risk factors? What are our opportunities?
So as far as we are concerned, as I mentioned, there is zinc oxide doesn't really come from China. And so that kind of a threat is not there. But this China plus one actually throws up an opportunity for us outside India. Now, there are few things happening in this. One, the moment you talk about China plus one, we are seeing even in India, now Chinese tires, the import of Chinese tires has come down drastically. So this presents an opportunity for us because our customers, our friends in India can increase their production. So that is an opportunity for us. So China, that way presents an opportunity if the Chinese products don't enter India, it poses an opportunity for us. Outside India, what happens is some of our global customers, they were quite, glued to China because of X, Y, Z reasons. Now, all of them are thinking of a China plus one strategy. So each one of us manufacturers who are located outside China tend to gain from it. To that extent, yes, we gain from the China plus one strategy.
Thanks and all the best. Balance will take off.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sir, this side, Ramesh Pujwani from Mehta and Vakil. In your presentation, you highlighted and emphasized that you are putting up a plant in Gujarat because Gujarat basically is the hub of the ceramic industry in India. You're absolutely right in that. Now, this plant in Gujarat, you're today at a 60,000 tons per annum capacity. What is the capacity you are intending to put up in Gujarat initially and or in total at one go, say a 40,000 ton or a 30,000 ton or a 60,000 ton?
Sure. So, you see, Gujarat, as you rightly said, is a big hub for ceramics. And as I mentioned in my presentation, that we are not limited to ceramics. We are interested in the tire industry there.
Yeah.
We are interested in the specialty chemical industry there as well.
Yes.
So, I cannot divulge of exact figure, but I mentioned that we will set up a reasonable size capacity in the range of 12 to 18,000, which is the bare minimum we want to have in phase one. And obviously, as a company, whenever we plan a greenfield opportunity, we don't plan for only phase one. We plan for multiple phases, and the infrastructure, the land, etc., is bought keeping in mind those phases. So obviously, we will look to scale up the facility. If you see the numbers historically, an Agripita plant facility started with a very small number, and in the last 6, 7 years, has scaled up multifold.
Yeah.
That is the strategy that we adopted in the past, and I think we'll continue to do that because capital allocation is very, very important. Just because we always been a debt-light company and we have access to capital, and just because we have access to more capital post the IPO doesn't mean we don't spend it all on day one with a very, very large capex. So we want to continue to grow the business. We set up a capacity. We reach a certain threshold where we feel that we need to ready for the next leg of my customer growth. So our strategy has always been we're very happy to where early before our customer demands rise up. Even 3 months late.
Perfect. Sir, this 60,000 tons per annum, does it make you the largest in India, or there are people still with a capacity higher than yours in India itself?
So we are the largest in India.
You are the largest in India. And who is the second, the capacity and the size next to you?
There are two companies. The names are also mentioned in the report. There are two Gujarat-based companies
Okay.
who also manufacture zinc oxide, but they're significantly smaller than us as far as the zinc oxide business is concerned. There are other businesses as well in the group which are there, but in the zinc oxide business, they're significantly smaller than us.
And you showed us one slide where 9 out of 10 global tire manufacturers, you have already got the certification of approvals. And in India, all the 11 manufacturers, you are approved. Now, when you have a global 9 out of 10, and those companies are also here in India, and you are catering to them in a good way or in a good quantity, plus 5 or 7% of their global requirements are also being sourced from you. Is it not reasonable to expect that these 9 out of 10 MNC tire companies can step up the sourcing from your side and your exports can go up exponentially in next 3, 4, 5 years?
So, as I mentioned to the question the earlier gentleman asked regarding exports, so you see, this global approval presents us with two opportunities. Number one opportunity, India is a growing economy, is a country which is there in every bedroom around the world. Everybody wants a foot in India. So the number two opportunity that we see is that these global MNCs, not all of them are in India today.
Yeah.
Come tomorrow, there is a high probability that they will come to India.
Yes.
If it's come to India, obviously became the first choice for them. So that is a very big opportunity, like you rightly pointed out, maybe not in the form of exports to them, but maybe actually catering to the domestic demand as it will come to India. So that's the biggest, because it also happened with one of these global companies like a few years back. When they came to India, because we can only from India, and those itself will be a facility, and till today we have almost 100% market share of domestic in India. It's a huge opportunity for us. Now, as far as scaling up the exports to these people are concerned, we feel we've already started that journey. To be honest with you, we do not expect manifold increase in that because, as I said, if it is an item, people prefer to be close to the customer. The customer wants you close. So it's not that my 5% will become 50%. Yes, the 5% can always inch up a few percent and keep on growing every year as we strengthen and as we become bigger in size and come in their focus. And also maybe because slowly and steadily we're seeing manufacturing coming back in countries like Europe, etc. So the smaller if the zinc oxide guys in Europe continue to close or capacity, then obviously they have to step up buying from other countries. So those are the opportunities which are there. But I've answered your question.
Absolutely. And my last thought was with the opportunity to cater to these MNC clients. See, MNCs are amongst globally, they are amongst the best paymasters. Domestic tire manufacturers will give you quantity, will give you the size and consume your capacity, but they don't pay maybe in 30 days or 45 days or 60 days. In Indian manufacturers, as a thumb rule, because I started my career selling industrial chemicals to a range of industries. So I have made this observation that any industry, be it pharma, be it plastics, be it petrochemicals, be it specialty chemicals, any in the paper industry, if it is an MNC, they don't want credit. They'll pay you the money in 30 days, but the approvals take even 15 months in an agrochemical company like Sandoz. So, with these MNCs coming to India, one, your cash flow cycles will improve. They are negative at the moment. And two, will not the PAT margin also have a 1 or 2 percentile upside?
So your question has two parts.
Yeah.
One is how will the receivables get affected? So I'm happy to share that what you presented about the Indian tire companies, we've also experienced that. We've
Yeah.
been in this business for a few decades now.
Yeah.
So yes, there was a time when even from a tire company, we've got payments in 8, 9 months.
Yeah.
But today I'm happy to say that all of our tire accounts are all cash-rich companies. They're all doing extremely well. And for the last so many years, we've had no issues of payments with them. We are getting payments on agreed terms, even without follow-up. So that's a big win for us as far as because a bulk of our business is tire. And if bulk of your business, you don't even need to follow up for payments. So that way, Indian tire industry is at par with any MNC in terms of paymastering and timely payments to us. And so that way we have no challenges on that. Now, even if the MNC comes to India, I think again they would be paying more, so that is a good opportunity for us. As far as your question on margins going up is concerned,
Yes.
margins in some effect are a direct correlation to the competition that you have in that segment. So as we already pointed out, in some of these segments, the requirements to get enlisted, the requirements to cater to them are far more stringent than some of the non-tire applications or the smaller application. Now, the moment you have less competition and you have more systems in place, so the customer realizes what you are asking the price for. So price is a perception of what is there in your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy a thing for 10 rupees, you can buy a same kind of a thing for 1,000 rupees. It depends on the quality. So these are the customers which appreciate quality.
Yeah.
They appreciate the systems, processes, and plants that we have. They come, they sit in our plant for 1 day, 2 day, evaluate the systems, and once they do that, they know they can pay a premium for that because there is a cost to failing. There is a big cost for the zinc oxide failing in a tire plant. Zinc oxide maybe 200 rupees kilo. I would maybe use 4% in the tire compound, but there is a next 96% which also goes if the zinc oxide fails. So they have a lot at stake than what I would have. So that way, yes, in these accounts, if we are able to penetrate further, we expect margins to be better. But I mean, that is anybody's guess.
What is the PAT margin today?
The range of 6-7%. The 9 month period has been lower because of reasons which I outlined earlier.
Thank you and all the best. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. Just one question. In regard to the raw materials, what you mentioned, like if there's a huge kind of volatility, how does that flow to our customers? And could you just explain your bargaining power a little more in detail?
Okay, so there are two aspects to it. Number one is how does the price mechanism work? So, say for example, we are in the month of February, and if I were to buy my raw materials in the month of February, I would be buying on an LME which is prevalent in February. To most of our large customers, when we sell the zinc oxide in March, the price of March would be basis the LME of February. So it is a pass-through. So whether zinc falls $200, $500, or rises $200 or $500, it really doesn't affect us. What is affected is the inventory that we carry. To that extent, if zinc gains a lot, we may gain on the inventory. If zinc falls a lot, we may have suffer on the inventory. But this is an inventory we carry perpetually in business. So at the end of the year, everything averages out. But on a shorter term period, obviously, you would see margins going up and down. If there is a large scale volatility in zinc prices, which happened in Q1 also. And the second part of your question, I'm sorry that I missed it. What is bargaining power? You see, as a company which is matured and has been in the business for a long time, we feel today the relationship has come to that there is no question of a bargaining power or who's on a higher wicket and who's on a lower wicket. It's about understanding each other. So we're happy to see that our customers understand us, we understand the customer. It's a matured relationship over the years. If there is a normal margin which a business should make, my customer appreciates that. I appreciate that there is a quality which needs to be delivered to that. If there is any aberration in that, for example, there was an aberration in Q2 when Anuj just explained that zinc scrap prices did not actually move in tandem with the zinc metal prices. So if the zinc metal prices are X, we buy scrap as a percentage of X. That was distorted in Q2 last year. Now, the obvious question is when that gets distorted, our margin gets affected. What we able to pass that on to the customer is where the bargaining power, so-called bargaining power, comes into play. So we need to collect data. It's not that on day one I can go to the customer and bill him and say, I need this. We collect some data, we watch it for a month, and we see if prices pertain to that. We approach the customer. It's a logical calculation. We present it to them. And I'm happy to say that most out of them obliged us with the ad hoc price increases that was required. So if that is a barometer of bargaining power, yes, we have it. But we would consider that there is no bargaining today. It's a mature relationship where both understand each other's difficulty and opportunities.
Also, could you just shed some light which you would see as a headwind to your business, like, which could slow you down or probably impact your operations or business as a whole?
I mean, to be honest, as far as we are concerned, apart from a country risk perspective, we really don't see much headwinds. Now, today, if there was something untoward to happen in a country like India, or if India was to slow down considerably, or you're talking of pandemics like a COVID-19, etc., those are factors which are beyond the control, and obviously, each and every business which is operating in that particular zone will get affected. So, and one of the other things which, Anuj mentioned in the slide is even when the tire industry had no growth in a 5-year period or a very negligible growth, we were able to grow. So that is some kind of an indication to you that how much is the capacity of the company to withstand headwinds. Yes, if there was a country perspective headwinds, I think everybody who operates out of the country gets affected. Apart from that, today we are talking of some industries are talking of substitution of product, which we explained to you that because we are from recyclable content, etc. So the incentive or the need for the tire trade, any of the segment to actually replace zinc oxide or to reduce zinc oxide is there, rather than be concentrating on carcinogenic products which they need to. So as far as that is concerned, we really don't see much headwinds. But yes, on a country perspective, that headwinds is always there.
So they're mainly macro factors.
Macro factors, absolutely.
Okay, thank you and best of luck.
Thank you.
This side towards your right. So as you mentioned that to increase the recyclable component in the tire. So currently, I guess you mentioned around 4% of tire compounds is zinc oxide. So how much more can increase to?
If you would mark my words carefully, I did not put a number that our content per tire will go up. What I was trying to hint is tire companies are trying to reduce the consumption of carcinogenic material. Because we do not fall in that bracket, our consumption will not go down. No? So we reduce some items may go up, but that is, we are maybe to comment on that at this particular point of time. This journey has just begun. we have to move it to the power industry and to see where the consumption of zinc oxide is actually going to go up only. But what we take solace to do, at least the consumption of this will not be replaced by any other item. So that is what I was trying to hint at.
Okay, okay, thanks. Also, as you mentioned about China playing opportunity, so is Europe plus opportunity as well? So, like the European players are either more out of favor, or is there consolidation happening over there or anything like that?
So as far as the European zinc oxide landscape is concerned, there is a lot of consolidation which has already happened there. In fact, one of the large zinc oxide producers also technology. Generally, there is a theme that manufacturing is moving out of Europe. So at some point of time, first the low industries plant in Europe shuts, that presents us with an opportunity to supply to the tire guys in Europe. To that extent, yes.
Also, is there opportunity to supply towards ceramic or any other industry in Europe, or mainly tire only?
So ceramics is a big consumption center in Europe. We have not really concentrated on the ceramics market yet because we would first like to concentrate in the ceramic market within the country, gain expertise on that with our Gujarat team, and then we can look at the ceramics business in Europe. It's not that we don't need them and we have not had dialogues with them, but currently I think our focus will be more on the European tire business. And once you are entering the market and you have, say, a distribution of a system in place, it is what stops us from even looking at the ceramics market in Europe.
Okay. Also, if you look at logistics cost, like for exporting, roughly what percentage of our revenue or cost would be logistics cost? Like, can it impact?
See, today, there is a lot of disruption happening in the logistics side. So logistics costs, which were X 6 months back or 3 months back, have become 2X now. So in an item like zinc oxide, usually we would not be constrained by the logistics cost because until and unless that particular customer local zinc oxide manufacturer, there obviously the constraint comes in. If you're buying, say, in a country like Germany, and you suddenly want to import from India. So if you're competing against the German versus these FTSE prices, obviously that will affect. And exports is a very small part of our exports and then of our total turnover, and then mostly our exports are concentrated to Southeast Asia. So the Europe challenge, if there are events like the FC crisis, etc., things can become challenging at times.
Okay. And also, maybe you have covered this before, but I just wanted to understand. So, what would be the comparison of total addressable market for other new industries like ceramics versus the tire industry for us, like the additional addressable market from here on?
So I'll let Anuj, he had covered that briefly in the presentation. I'll request him to step.
So as I mentioned to you earlier that the overall zinc oxide market in India is about 1.3 lakh tons, of which the largest share is rubber. Ceramics would be about 20%. We expect that the ceramic sector will also have, secular growth going in it because of the sheer need for, demand for construction and also premiumization in Indian homes. That's one. So the ceramic sector will continue to increase. Apart from the ceramic sector, we expect the agriculture sector to also have reasonable growth because we are starting off from a very, very low base. Currently, zinc oxide is not a part of the zinc of the fertilizer control order. Huge amounts of zinc oxide is used in agriculture in the Western countries. There's a big scope for that. Whether the zinc oxide will be included in the FCO next year or the year after that, I'm not able to comment on that. On the paint segment as well, there's a lot of growth. On the battery segment, there's a lot of growth. On the pharmaceutical segment, there's a lot of growth. So as far as the overall demand side of the zinc oxide is concerned, we feel both the rubber, which includes the tire and non-tire, there's a lot of mining equipment for products in the non-tire segment, which are also doing very well now. Across most of the end user industries going ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Hello, sir. I'm Shan Sharma from November. Sir, initially, business for tire companies is 5 to 6 years. What has been the case for the other industries?
So it depends. It's industry specific. So tire, as you rightly said, is about 5 to 6 years. If you're talking of a pharmaceutical industry, again, approval process may not be as long as the tire business, but then a couple of years they do stability tests, etc. So it would be longer. The more complex the industry, the more, and I think it's also more third party liability. pharma company has a third party liability, a tire company has a third party liability. So if you have a Halal Chappal manufacturer based out of North India, it's no third party liability. So at that end, approach could spend a little time. So it's industry specific. For example, if you were catering to the electronic sector, again, that's very critical application. So it takes slightly longer. So it is industry specific, but I would say 90% of the business that we do today, the major processes are fairly low. Okay, and because say that it's coming from the power industry, the previous point of view. Now, considering that that side will be focusing more on ceramics, the business will be little lower. I'm just because I missed a place like at the last 3 4 months number, we have got 20% from tire industry. So our share in tire is about 50%. Sorry, from tire. So sorry, my bad. Institutes of a lot of other products. Anything you see in daily life which is made of rubber uses zinc oxide. So it could be a pencil eraser, it could be a V-belt, a conveyor belt at the airport, anything. So if you explain this rubber, can be possible for you to share with us?
I mean, I have kind of mentioned to you that tire is approximately 80%.
No, sorry. Well, another question would be, what is the volumes? I've seen that our revenue about 30% in last 3 years from 21 to 23. How was the volume rate during the same period?
So as I mentioned earlier that, in a period of very little growth, we grew our volumes at a 13% CAGR. So we've been able to, consistently grow our volumes in the teens. And going forward, we expect that with the addition of new plants, and mind you, the addition of plants are in newer geographies where we are going to be starting off from a very low base. So we expect that the overall volume growth of the company for the zinc oxide division should be higher than what we've achieved in the past.
Okay, and last question in FY 20, we have seen that the margins were similar to maybe say 9 months that we have seen. So there was the same reason because of the inventory levels we were the margins were impacted. There were a couple of reasons in FY. You would appreciate that COVID struck India maybe in sometime in March, but the global feel of that had started to come in European countries in the month of Jan, end of Jan, early Feb. So zinc prices had started to take a knockoff, and also a large part of our sales towards the end of March could not go through. And in a scenario where zinc prices were falling, so what should have technically been a pass on could not have been passed on because physically our customers were closed. So there was no push material because practically the country was in a standstill. The plants were closed. Whereas, you know, I must briefly mention, as far as international relationships are concerned with our suppliers, as a company, that time we took a stance that in spite of the fact that we were in a position to maybe enforce a force majeure or maybe cancel contracts which were priced in February, March, etc. As a company, we resorted to not cancel a single contract. So in a situation, in most commodities, most things fell by 1,000 etc. Whatever be the case, we did not backtrack on any contract. We did not enforce any force majeure. We continued to take deliveries of those operations, even if our plants were closed. We did that. And this back to us very handsomely over the next few years. Because with that kind of a scenario, I found that post-COVID, the trust of those suppliers of us increased manifolds. There were places where we were putting a small deposit to have them show. I mean, customers came from one side, suppliers came from the one and said that, JG Chemicals doesn't should have to put the deposit any further. So, I mean, even I started becoming the preferred choice of supply. So, those benefits are quite yes, but in the short run, it hit us. Okay, thank you. Hello. Yeah, this is Rohit from Smile Securities. So, a couple of questions from my side. One is with this capacity right now around 60,000, what is the utilization level right now we are operating in? What is the peak utilization at which we are operating? And because post we have to increase the capacity.
Sure. So the installed capacity of a zinc oxide division is about 60,000 ton, of which the achievable capacity is about 85%, so around 50,000 ton. About 10% of that capacity is for the pharmaceutical business. So if you remove that, it's about 45,000 tons of achievable capacity. We are operating at close to about 60-65% range in that, and we're fairly comfortable. And I think there's a headroom to increase that utilization by 10-15%, which we obviously endeavor to do in the next year. And also, we want to be ready with the next capacity within the next 4 to 5 quarters with the Gujarat plant and the Southeast Asia plant, because these are catering to newer geographies, which in actually no way affects the utilization rates of our India plant, because the Gujarat plant would mainly be catering to that segment, and anyway is not selling much from our plants in Calcutta or in Andhra, that region, and the Southeast plant would have a totally new market, which is, independent of anything in India and the capacity that we have there.
Okay. And secondly, on this zinc sulfate side, what was the total capex we did there?
The total capex, so obviously you have to understand that the zinc sulfate project was put up in the same premises as the zinc oxide business. So there are a lot of shared services which the zinc sulfate business is using. So, I mean, the overall capex, if you say, would be less than 10 to 12 crores for the zinc sulfate business in terms of, specifically to the zinc sulfate business right now.
Okay. Okay. One last question on the margin side and revenue mix. Right now, it's around 90% from the rubber side, and as I said, that 80% is from tire. So where I think, margin expansion, much more margin expansion is not possible there. But since pharma and ceramic is going to add, so how much margin expansion we should be looking at in next 2-3 years with that kind of revenue mix, maybe in next 2-3 years?
Sure. So you see, the two parts of the question in terms of margin expansion. So the conventional zinc oxide business enjoys a particular margin, which we've maintained historically. I would not say that the margins on that business will not increase. We definitely have scope to increase our margins, and the margin increase would be through multiple avenues. One, there would be operating leverage. You have to understand that when you're making, putting up a plant in Gujarat or in Southeast Asia, a lot of the costs are centered in a particular zone in the head office or shared services. So we're not going to be having a separate purchase team or a completely separate sales team or a completely separate finance team. So that will be there. That will help us. Plus, we've also taken certain initiatives to reduce our emissions and have better waste heat recovery systems. And that's a continuous journey that we do. I think on the first day in my career when I joined the office, our chairman told me that the endeavor should always be to be the lowest cost producer, lowest cost per unit producer in the world. And that's something we're always focusing on. And we think there's a scope to, increase our margin not by just increasing our price, but by reducing our cost. On the other products, the pharma and the specialty business have higher margins, the active zinc oxide has higher margins, the zinc sulfate business has higher margins. And all these, whatever businesses that we're getting to, whatever geographies we are going to go to, we have the ability to scale up. And the phase one of what we're going to be setting up now, but 2 years, 3 years later, we'll be looking at the next phase as well, and as we've done historically. So there will, on a blended, consolidated level, we should see margin expansion. The exact fit, I can't say right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. This side. We have a few questions from the online participants. Firstly, why do you have a subsidiary for manufacturing the same product produced by the holding company? Can you explain?
So the BDG Oxides facility is currently about 95% owned by GG. The decision to put it up as a subsidiary was because of strategic reasons.
Okay. Who would be your nearest competitor in India?
As I've outlined earlier, and it's mentioned in the RHP as well as the CARE report, there are a couple of guys in Gujarat who are operating in the zinc oxide field who are our nearest competitors.
Okay. Can you give us a revenue breakup of zinc oxide and zinc sulfate?
Zinc sulfate would be less than 3% of the overall business today.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
So,
I thank the management team, including the chairman, MD, as well as CFO, for giving a very wide, very detailed perspective on the company in their opening comment presentation, as well as fielding a wide variety of questions. Outlining the key, the background of the company, key strengths, as well as strategies to support the future growth. Given companies the leading position in the zinc oxide, as well as deep relationship with the customers, as well as the a very strong sourcing pipeline, we hope that the issue will see a very robust response across the investor categories. I would like to thank you all for attending the event, as well as asking very relevant questions to the management. We look forward to your support for making the issue a huge success. Just to summarize on the issue, the IPO consists of about 74.66 lakh shares. This is the fresh issue of about 165 crore. There's OFS of about 39 lakh equity shares, which is about 86.2 crore rupees at the upper end of the price band. The price band is 210 to 221 per equity share, which has a face value of 10 rupees. The offer would constitute about 29.01% of our post-offer paid up equity share capital. The IPO opens on March 5th and closes on March 7th. Now, I would like to request you everyone to join us for high tea and for the interaction with the management team.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.